All right, welcome Cryptonauts to another video with Brett and Grant from Cryptoverse.academy. It's a place where you can learn DeFi and crypto in a language anyone can understand. Today, as we have talked about in prior videos, we wanted to highlight NFTs, some of the value, some of the risks that you should watch out for, and go through a couple scenarios so that you can see real time some things that Brett has got his hands dirty with. Brett, you've bought some stuff on NFTs and you've got kind of a general lay of the land. So give us a quick, show us some things that you have done and then help us avoid some random asteroid belt that'll take all of us, for a ride that we don't want to be on. How's that?
Okay. Let me share my screen and then we'll walk through it. So, okay, the first thing I want to highlight is the Sandbox. We alluded to the Sandbox a little bit last week in our video. There was another sell this morning. The next sell is, as you can see, happening in 6 days, 18 hours. So if you want to pick up some land, make sure you jump on here 6 days and 18 hours. It goes extremely fast. So for example, the one that released today is already sold. It opened at 7 a.m. The time before that, when I looked, I think if I remember right, the whole thing was sold out within like 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. Every single spot was sold. So each one of these little squares that you see right here is a piece of land that you can buy. And then depending on where they're at in relation to some of these bigger ones like the Sandbox and stuff like that, they can be more expensive. So there are a few different options.
Question while you're navigating.
Yeah.
Do you know how many units of land that were sold this morning? So when you say sold out, is that like there were 100 people that got land, or is that 1,000 or more? Do you know by chance?
I don't know how many people were actually able to close on it. But as an example, here is this should be the whole metaverse. So you can see this is all the land that is sold so far. You can see companies like Atari have bought a pretty big section of land. The Sandbox has a few different sections. Let's see.
I love how they like make it their own world. Like there's oceans or something between the land. Like they've kind of.
Yeah. Oh, this one is really interesting that I saw the other day. The Walking Dead. This is actually legit The Walking Dead. So they went into they're collaborating with The Walking Dead and making. So one thing to know is all of these are like 3D kind of Minecraft style avatars and stuff like that. So for example, let's jump over here really quick to the market to show these. So they're more of these like 3D characters and stuff like that. That's the Sandbox metaverse, as they're calling it. These are the characters though, that some of the characters that you can get. So let's jump back to the land again.
And are they creating those characters, or are like Cryptonauts that are users creating those characters?
So as of right now, from what I can tell, they're creating them, and you'll end up getting, so depending on the land you buy, you can actually get some of those with the land that you're purchasing. So I saw the last sale, there was some land that I could have bought that I think had 5 different NFTs with it. A couple like people, and then a couple other like random objects and stuff that I could have gotten. But that one was a really interesting one that they were going in collab with The Walking Dead. Cool. Here's FTX. I mean, we've talked about FTX a couple of times and kind of what
Tesla's in there.
Tesla's in there. Roller Coaster Tycoon. That was and I think still is a pretty big game. I never really got into the Tycoon series, but there's a lot of people that play.
They hold a lot of land tycoons on that world. So if I put it in layman's terms, this world that we're looking at, the Sandbox, the meta world, is that what you called it?
The metaverse is what they call it.
The metaverse. This right now, this is all of the available land that they have created. So if I looked at this like I look at the Earth, this is it's expandable though. It's not like there's a finite place. Like they can expand based on demand. Am I understanding that correct?
I'm not totally sure how the Sandbox has actually limited the amount of land that they can or can't create. I haven't really dug into that, which is also why I haven't personally bought any land. So good point to highlight. None of this is financial advice. This is just highlighting different things for everybody to kind of see what's going on. That would be something that I would definitely look at before I would put any money into it.
And we can look into it, and
it.
then we can post an article on Cryptoverse Academy. That's a deeper level, but cool. Keep going. I like this. I like what I see.
So all of these green spots are spots that are purchased. And then the yellow spots are usually like in the middle of purchasing. So like the transaction hasn't gone fully through from what I've seen before. All of this black land, or like the empty spots here, means that it hasn't sold yet. And you can see there are a few others here that are on sale on Open Sea. So Open Sea is actually a big marketplace that you can go and buy and sell NFTs. So I'll show you that at the end of this, and I'll show you an NFT that I've actually purchased that we can go through, and it's on Open Sea.
I have another question. It doesn't matter. Like, look at to the right of MetaKey, that space right there.
Yeah.
From a land perspective, am I to look at this kind of like a game, and like there's more value, even though there's squares, not all squares are created equal. So it might be more valuable to have a square right by MetaKey than it is towards the middle.
Yep, that's totally the case. So the closer you can get to some of these bigger squares, the higher the value of that land, even when they sell it. So like most of the time when they're selling it, the last time I looked at it, I think it was 4,300 sand, I believe, for these that are right along some of these bigger squares. And then once you get out in the middle, they drop down to like, I think it was 1,500 sand.
And I guess help me understand. I mean, I get it in principle, right? That you have, it's kind of like malls in a way, right? You have your anchor stores, and then, you got a lot of traffic going to the anchor stores. So maybe in a mall, the square footage is more valuable, along that hallway or whatever leading to the mall. I get it in idea, but when it comes to this, is there something else as to why it would be more valuable? Is it because people, when they look at things for sale, they're looking at it just like you are and determining the value that way? Or is there a different level that we just don't know exists yet to determine?
Yeah. So from what I've heard and listened to on the Sandbox, their goal is actually so when you're moving around in the metaverse, you're going to have higher traffic areas. Like, for example, Atari will likely be a relatively high traffic area. And so anything that you can get around Atari, right, your brand and whatnot will show up next to Atari.
Gotcha.
And that's from my understanding. I don't know the inner workings of how the game's actually going to play, but when they were talking about it, I was kind of envisioning like the Ready Player One style, if anybody's read the book or seen the movie, where it's like you go into this area, right, and you can play different games or whatnot, and then off in the distance you can see, oh, I could go over here or over there, and if it's too far away, you're not going to see it while you're in that area of the game, right? So then you'd have to jump to different areas. And some of these bigger ones, from my understanding, are kind of going to be those bigger hubs, and so you want to get closer to the bigger hubs.
Love it. Cool.
That's my understanding. That's my understanding of kind of where they're going with it. So all of this land right here, I believe this land is going to be for sale on July 22nd, which is the next land sale. So that's why this is all grayed out and stuff like that. The yellow spots, I believe the yellow spots in this situation actually might be the premium land, which is going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So that's this whole section right here should be what's available in the next land sale, which is on July 22nd, I believe. That's how it's going to work. So there you go. That's the Sandbox. So if you're interested in buying some land,
July 22nd,
18 hours. Yep. And I believe it's 7 a.m. This is Mountain Time, by the way. So make sure you are checking it for your time zone. Another thing, if you want to get sand, because everything, in order to buy land and whatnot, you have to have sand in order to do that. So this is all run on the Ethereum network, but you can't use Ethereum to buy the land, so you have to have sand. So one option that I would recommend looking at is Paraswap. Paraswap is an aggregator. So basically what that does is it allows you, it will go and pick out the best swaps like Uniswap and different, there are a bunch of different swaps. It'll basically go find the best one that you can use to get the most out of your swap. So like in this situation, I could swap Ethereum for 200, like 0.0779 Ethereum for 274 sand with Paraswap, and it will go and figure out which one, like which
It's basically
dexes to
optimizing.
use.
It's optimizing the swap, right? So it gets you
Yeah.
as close to without fees hammering you.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's similar to like 1inch. We talked about 1inch in the past where we would use 1inch on Binance Smart Chain, and 1inch will go and look at different swaps. So like it would take in like Pancake Swap and Ape Swap and different ones like that, and it will say, okay, well in this situation, Ape Swap's better than Pancake Swaps. We'll use that to do the swap.
Yeah.
And then behind the scenes, it will go and use that to do your swap for you. So this is an aggregator of dexes or swaps. So yeah, that's how you can get some sand. Check out Paraswap, connect your Ethereum wallet, and then you can swap Ethereum for sand if that's the route you want to go.
Sweet.
So another thing that I wanted to highlight, since we're talking about NFTs and also some of these 3D creatures, I guess, or people, there was a Meebit. So this is from the same creators that did CryptoPunks. So Larva Labs, I believe, is the name.
Yeah.
So they created Meebits. I can't remember how many thousand Meebits. I think it was like 10,000 Meebits, if I remember right.
Are these avatars? Are they related to a person,
you could call
or
them
is it just
avatars.
asset?
Yeah, you could call them avatars.
Okay.
But this one's, they're NFTs. So there's only one of this specific NFT, which is, this is the double snouted pig, I think is what they ended up calling it. So you can see here it sold for 1,000 ETH, which at the time was 2.17 million US dollars. So that was the largest sell that I've seen of a Meebit so far. CryptoPunks, I mean, there was a CryptoPunk that we talked about, I think last time or the time before, that sold for, I believe, over $11 million.
Wow.
Through Sotheby's. And so we're getting more legitimacy on this side. I mean, you're selling with Sotheby's and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of the big player in the game of art and stuff like that. So it's interesting. Right?
Okay.
And this
so practical use. It's an NFT, right? It's for sale. Somebody created it. It's got a unique code to it, right? So they can track it throughout whatever part of the crypto world. And so you've created, let's say it's not the double snouted three-eyed pig, it's the Mona Lisa or whatever, right? Like that has value just because somebody says it has value.
Correct.
And I exchange dollars, therefore it has value. What do I do with it once I have it?
Right now there's not really anything that you can do with NFTs, but the direction that they're going, let's take the Sandbox for example. So the Sandbox, at some point, hopefully in the near future, you'll be able to take like your NFT, like this double snouted pig, and use it to play inside of the Sandbox. Even though the Sandbox wasn't the one that created that NFT, you'll now be able to basically port it into the Sandbox and start using it as your avatar or whatever else to navigate around in.
Interesting. Well, and we had talked before, part of the risk of an NFT is, like, this one was created on, well, I don't know, Meebit specifically, which network is that on? Is that in a smart chain?
Meebits is through Ethereum. So Larva Labs did all of their stuff on Ethereum. So
okay.
CryptoPunks, Meebits, and then they have one other one, but I can't remember what it is right now that they've done.
So it's Ethereum, which means that on the Ethereum network it has value, but if you're on the Binance Smart Chain, you would need to port this into the Binance Smart Chain or recreate it almost, right?
Yeah.
But it's still like the same DNA, if you will, if you recreated it, because it's still on the blockchain, right?
Technically, it wouldn't even be the same anymore because this is tied to a very specific like token ID and everything. And so
you're right.
It's not the same anymore. If you were, as of right now, as of current, how everything stands, there's not really a way that you could transfer this between chains. So like from Ethereum to the Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah.
So this is specifically an ERC 721 token. And obviously I just noticed there's way more than 10,000 bits because this is number 17,522.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly how many they created, but anyway, yeah, so this, you couldn't port it over because it's an ERC 721 token, which is just basically a unique identifier, or how they do the unique identifier for it.
Yeah.
You couldn't port it over into Binance Smart Chain as of right now. That doesn't mean that that won't change in the future, but right now it wouldn't work.
Cool. Because I know, you've heard like if there's risk to NFT, it's the cross-chain risk, which it
Yes.
works in one, and then your asset could be replicated in any other smart chain. And then did you devalue that asset because it just went into a whole different universe? Think of it like a wormhole in the universe, right? You've just gone from one, you had an asset here and it still exists, but you could port that through a wormhole to something else. And now it exists in two places, which there's a risk there, because at the end of the day, see if we're on the same page with NFTs from a principle standpoint. It is an asset, which therefore is defined by supply and demand. If you have limited supply and high demand, that asset is worth a lot of money. And so that therein lies some of the risk with NFTs is trying to figure out what the supply demand is.
Yeah, and some are going to be worth a lot more than others. So as of right now, because of what Larva Labs have done, they were really the first one. In fact, I think they actually were, like the ERC 721 token was actually attributed to them. They basically created it messing around with CryptoPunks. Yeah. So they created CryptoPunks, which is really it's recognized as the first NFT that was ever created. Those CryptoPunks are obviously going for, over $11 million for one CryptoPunk. So Larva Labs, if Larva Labs comes out with something, you can pretty much bet that there's going to be some high demand for it, at least in the near future. How that shakes out in the long term, who knows? Who knows what it's actually going to look like? But now they have some track record behind them that it makes it a little bit more interesting.
It's the reason why Bitcoin is roughly 30 grand and all the other coins are less, right? It's all the same principle. Okay, game on. Next, then, this is one you actually purchased, this NFT.
Yeah. So this is one that I purchased. I purchased it, you can see right here, through Art Blocks. This is called Galaxis. So this is actually, it ends up being a 3D planet. Now, this is what's called generative art. So generative art is, the artist didn't actually go and create this. They actually created code that when I went and, we'll say, commissioned the art piece, the code ran, and then based on, I believe it's based on my unique identifier. So, right, every wallet has a unique identifier. So based on my unique identifier, my wallet ID, it went and basically put that in and then came out with this as the end result for my planet.
So it's a unique planet. Nothing else like this exists in the entire solar system.
Correct. And because my ID is unique to me, every planet is going to be unique to the person that ended up generating it.
Dude, you have like a cloud like hovering out there.
Yeah. And I've got a little plane that's flying around too. It's kind of cool. So now, is this one going to be worth anything? Probably not, because on Art Blocks, this hasn't sold out yet and it's been a few months. I honestly bought it just so that I could kind of go through the process of buying an NFT, and I thought it was kind of cool. And so that's why I bought it. It's not, oh yeah, I'm going to make a bunch of money on this one. It was more just to go through the process.
Okay, now connect the potential dots here. Right now, for example, if you look back at the land sale that was just happening, right? Mm-hmm. In that world, do you perceive one day where, like right now, if there's any critique that I have on the cryptoverse, is that it's really, well, because it is by nature decentralized, there's not a lot of talking together, right? There's not a lot of that going on. But do you see that where something like this could potentially have a play in something like, where you're showing the land earlier, where it's like in a world where, oh, my asset, my avatar, doesn't matter where I bought it, doesn't matter what it is, actually can connect to, like Lego block style into other places?
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of the from everything that I've seen and kind of the general direction of what they're trying to push it is, even though I bought this off of art blocks, I would be able to go and use this somehow, some way in the sandbox or whatever else comes out in the future, because this is my unique NFT. Like, again, assuming I don't sell it.
Well, dude, all you got to say is this Galaxis number 309 is heavy loaded with gold. Like you,
I
you
know,
could
right?
mine gold in here.
It's got
And
Bitcoin in the center.
yeah, Bitcoin.
If
It's like 100% Bitcoin.
if only, if
Uh,
only.
that's funny, dude. Congrats on that. Like you just own part of the universe. Like you've got some random planet out there floating around.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought it was kind of cool, which is why I bought it in the first place. Art Blocks is actually one that I would want to highlight on the NFT side. Art Blocks has done some really interesting things, and they have some interesting artists that end up jumping on there. Now, caveat: not everything that's on Art Blocks is going to be worth anything at all, but there are a few artists that end up selling out really fast. So here you can see these are some of the different things that have come out of Art Blocks. Everything, from my understanding, everything on Art Blocks is generative art. So the artist actually went and created code. It uses unique IDs or however they determine to generate it, that will then spit out different art pieces when you commission it, right? The artist isn't going and creating it. It's using their code that they created to then go and create the actual art itself.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it interesting to me, is it's not some artist just going and creating a JPEG and saying, hey, here's your JPEG. It's they've written code, and then it becomes unique to each person that commissions the art piece.
Like that Galaxis number 298, that's different than yours.
That is different than mine. Yep.
Still has a floating cloud and probably an airplane.
Yeah, it's got a little airplane right here. So yeah, and so you can go check out Art Blocks if you want to. The pieces vary in how much it takes to commission them. My planet, I think, was 0.15 ETH, which if you look at it, it's like, wow, you spent like $400 or $500 on like an NFT thing that you don't know if it's going to go anywhere. Yeah, because I play the game.
User. You're being
just
the
play
user.
the game.
You're being the user, and it's helpful, I hope, to the cryptonauts. Like the world of crypto is so new, and in some ways we're trying to connect this dot that you can see in a Ready Player One universe or a movie, for example, and think, man, that's so far out there, and yet it's really
really not.
It's
actually
like now.
It's right around the corner. Yeah,
it's now, and that's why we did this, because we see. I mean, that was the big aha moment that I had with crypto in the first place. I was a fringe observer. I saw, enough to know what it was, but I never got into it. But then once you start uncovering what really is happening, it's not like it's not just activity for activity's sake. There's a lot of value actually being created, and it will only get more valuable. So hopefully that's why these videos are have some value to you as our cryptonauts. So all that being said, any last thoughts on NFT before we wrap up?
Outside of just be careful with what you buy NFT wise, make sure you do some research. See, I mean, anything NFT wise, there has to be a community behind it. So I would search. Here's some how I would look at NFTs. If you actually want to go buy an NFT and you're actually going to be a little speculative on it and everything else like that, go and check out the different communities, because where you have communities built up, like CryptoPunks, like MeBits, like apes, and different things like that, there are communities that are like building around those specific NFTs and stuff like that. That it's like, okay, whoever created, the apes or the MeBits and whatnot, if they come out with something else because there's a community around them, the chances are it's actually going to be worth something when you buy it. Yeah. Now, that's not guaranteed, but when you have a community, I mean, think Pokemon right now. For those that have seen anything about that, Pokemon has exploded over the last like 2 years or so. and it's insane how much some of those cards are going for. And it's because there's a huge group around Pokemon right now. Honestly, it's from my generation. Now we have some money, and now it's like, hey, let's go buy Pokemon. I remember Pokemon when I was younger, and so now it's exploding because of my generation in particular. But now there's money to be had there because there's a community around it. So
Yeah.
it works just like it does in, I would say, in the real world of collectibles, that you just have to find the community and find one that you're interested in, and then go from there. If you lose money, well, you lose money. It is what it is.
We will highlight a couple of these principles and do a deeper dive on a couple of things we'd mentioned before in cryptoverse.academy. If you're not a subscriber, do it. You get a deeper dive than what we do here in these videos, but you know, the videos you get to see us and laugh at us. So there you go. That's it. And entertainment for the day. As always, thank you. And until we meet again.
See you, everybody.